January 6th Capitol Riot, 2021. In 2021, Donald Trump faced one of the darkest moments of his political career. On January 6th, during his Save America rally, he delivered a fiery speech urging his supporters to fight like hell. Within hours, thousands of rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol, overpowering police, vandalizing offices, and halting Congress as it prepared to certify Joe Biden's victory. Trump's refusal to accept the 2020 election results and his constant claims of fraud fueled the chaos. Lawmakers were evacuated, lives were lost, and America's image of democracy was shaken worldwide. In the aftermath, Trump was impeached for a second time, the only president in U.S. history to face impeachment twice, on charges of incitement of insurrection. Although the Senate ultimately acquitted him, bipartisan investigations, including the January 6th committee, revealed alarming details. Trump ignored pleas to intervene, watched events unfold on television, and even pressured officials to delay certification. The riot not only marked a violent assault on democracy, but also deepened divisions in America, leaving Trump's legacy forever tied to one of the nation's darkest days. Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. After leaving office in January 2021, Donald Trump sparked a legal firestorm by retaining hundreds of classified government documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate. These records included highly sensitive national security materials, some marked top secret. Despite repeated requests from the National Archives, Trump delayed and resisted returning them, claiming they were his property or that he had declassified them. By mid-2022, federal investigators escalated the case, citing obstruction and possible violations of the Espionage Act. In August 2022, the FBI executed an unprecedented search at Mar-a-Lago, seizing more than 11,000 government records, including around 300 classified files. Evidence later showed Trump and his aides misled officials, hid boxes of documents, and even moved them around to evade detection. The Department of Justice argued that Trump's mishandling of these files endangered U.S. security, raising concerns about whether sensitive intelligence could fall into the wrong hands. In 2023, Trump was formally indicted on dozens of counts, including willful retention of national defense information and obstruction of justice, charges that could carry decades in prison. His defense continues to center on claims of political persecution, but the case remains one of the most serious legal threats he has ever faced. Stormy Daniels' hush money and New York fraud trial. In 2016, while running for president, Donald Trump arranged for his lawyer, Michael Cohen, to secretly pay Stormy Daniels, an adult film actress, $130,000 in hush money. The goal was to silence her claims of an alleged affair. The payment itself wasn't illegal, but the way it was hidden became the foundation of a major criminal case. Trump reimbursed Cohen, yet the payments were falsely logged in company records as legal fees. This cover-up was designed to protect his election chances. It kept damaging personal allegations out of the headlines, just weeks before voters went to the polls. Prosecutors argued this broke state law by disguising the true purpose of the payments, election influence. In 2023, Manhattan prosecutors filed formal charges. And in 2024, Trump was convicted on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. The trial revealed more than just the hush money scheme. It showed a pattern of deception inside Trump's inner circle. Michael Cohen testified that Trump directly authorized the plan. Prosecutors linked the falsified records to efforts to manipulate the 2016 election outcome. This case was historic. It marked the first ever criminal conviction of a former U.S. president, and it placed Trump's legal and political future into completely uncharted territory. Sexual misconduct allegations and defamation. For decades, Donald Trump has faced persistent accusations of sexual misconduct. More than 24 women have accused him of harassment, assault, or inappropriate behavior, allegations stretching back to the 1970s. The most high-profile case came from writer Jean Carroll, who accused Trump of sexually assaulting her in a department store dressing room in the 1990s. Trump dismissed Carroll's claims as lies, attacking her publicly and repeatedly. This led Carroll to sue for both sexual abuse and defamation. In 2023, a New York jury ruled against Trump, finding him liable for sexual abuse and defamation, and ordered him to pay millions in damages. In 2024, a separate defamation trial increased those damages to tens of millions more after Trump continued making disparaging remarks. These legal battles unfolded against the backdrop of the #MeToo movement, where survivors speaking out reshaped public perception of power and accountability. Trump's infamous Access Hollywood tape, in which he bragged about groping women, resurfaced during the 2016 election and added further weight to the allegations. While Trump has denied every claim, the court rulings solidified the accusations in legal history, making him one of the few U.S. presidents ever found liable for sexual abuse. Emoluments Clause lawsuits. Early in his presidency, Trump was accused of violating the U.S. Constitution's emoluments clauses, which forbid federal officials from receiving payments or gifts from foreign governments or U.S. states. Unlike past presidents, he refused to divest from his private businesses, allowing foreign diplomats and state officials to spend heavily at Trump hotels, especially the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. Between 2017 and 2020, watchdog groups, members of Congress, and state attorneys general filed multiple lawsuits. Evidence showed that foreign governments openly booked rooms, hosted events, and directed business toward Trump's properties as a way to curry favor with his administration. Critics argued this amounted to corruption and a direct threat to democratic integrity. Trump dismissed the accusations, claiming these were normal business transactions and not unconstitutional benefits. Courts struggled with legal standing, and although some cases progressed, most were ultimately dismissed after Trump left office in 2021. Still, the lawsuits shed light on unprecedented ethical conflicts, raising serious questions about how personal profit influenced presidential decision-making and setting a dangerous precedent for future leaders. Trump Organization business fraud case. Trump and the Trump Organization were accused of committing widespread financial fraud by inflating the value of assets to secure loans, insurance benefits, and tax advantages. Investigations led by New York Attorney General Letitia James uncovered a pattern of exaggerated valuations, such as tripling the size of Trump's Manhattan apartments or inflating golf course revenue projections. The probe began in 2019 and culminated in a 2023 ruling where the court found Trump and his company guilty of persistent fraud. By early 2024, the case escalated into a trial that stripped Trump of key business licenses, imposed massive fines, and threatened his ability to operate real estate in New York. The court described his financial statements as a fantasy, dismissing his defense as misleading and intentional. Trump insisted the case was a political witch hunt, but documents and witness testimony painted a clear picture of systematic deception over many years. The penalties dealt a major blow to his business empire and reputation, marking one of the most damaging legal defeats of his career. Beyond fines, the case raised questions about how fraudulent business practices had supported Trump's rise in wealth and power long before his presidency. Racial discrimination, housing lawsuits. In the early 1970s, Trump and his father's company, Trump Management, were accused of systematically refusing to rent apartments to black tenants in New York City. The Department of Justice launched an investigation in 1973 after undercover agents and civil rights groups documented that black applicants were routinely turned away while white applicants were accepted. The federal lawsuit became one of the largest housing discrimination cases of its time. Evidence showed that applications from minority tenants were marked with codes to ensure they were rejected. Facing mounting pressure, the Trumps settled the case in 1975 through a consent decree, which required them to desegregate their properties, adopt affirmative advertising, and report compliance to civil rights organizations. Although the settlement did not include an admission of guilt, it cemented Trump's reputation for controversial and discriminatory practices. Decades later, journalists and critics continued to reference this case as an early sign of Trump's disregard for civil rights. The episode revealed how his business interests often clashed with legal and ethical standards, and it foreshadowed the broader controversies that would follow him into politics. Trump University fraud. From 2005 to 2010, Trump operated Trump University, a for-profit real estate seminar program that promised students insider knowledge and mentorship directly from Trump himself. In reality, the school was unaccredited, overpriced, and widely considered a scam. Students paid tens of thousands of dollars for workshops and elite mentorships that failed to deliver the promised education or business opportunities. Investigations revealed deceptive marketing tactics, such as staged photos with Trump, false guarantees of financial success, and promises of personal involvement that never materialized. Many students were pressured into spending more money through high-pressure sales tactics, leaving them in debt and disillusioned. In 2010 and 2013, class action lawsuits accused Trump University of fraud and deceptive business practices. After years of legal battles, Trump agreed in 2016 to a $25 million settlement that compensated thousands of students. He admitted no wrongdoing, but the settlement exposed the scale of the deception. The scandal showcased Trump's pattern of exploiting trust for personal gain, using his brand name to lure vulnerable people into a financial trap. For many critics, Trump University became symbolic of how he blurred the line between business and fraud throughout his career. Frivolous lawsuits and abuse of legal system. Throughout his career, Trump repeatedly weaponized the courts to attack rivals, silence critics, and delay accountability. From the 1980s onward, he became notorious for filing frivolous lawsuits, often with little chance of success, as a tactic of intimidation. Judges and legal scholars noted that Trump treated the legal system not as a forum for justice, but as a tool of personal vengeance. Examples include his 2022 RICO lawsuit accusing Hillary Clinton and the FBI of conspiring against him, a case swiftly dismissed as baseless. Courts fined Trump and his lawyers nearly $1 million for abusing the system, with political grievances masquerading as legal claims. Earlier, he also sued journalists, business partners, and even comedians who mocked him, many cases ending in dismissal. This pattern revealed a deeper strategy, using litigation to drain opponents' resources, delay proceedings, and project an image of strength. But over time, the courts grew less tolerant of these tactics, imposing sanctions and publicly criticizing his behavior. Trump's reliance on legal harassment underscored his willingness to bend institutions to his will. Instead of defending his record, he often used lawsuits as a weapon, a hallmark of his dark legacy in both business and politics. Georgia election fraud and racketeering charges. After losing the 2020 election, Trump turned Georgia into a battleground for his claims of fraud. On January 2, 2021, he called Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, pressuring him to find 11,780 votes, just enough to flip the result. This phone call became one of the clearest examples of attempted election interference by a sitting president. Prosecutors later revealed a broader racketeering conspiracy involving Trump's allies, who spread false fraud claims, pressured officials, intimidated election workers, and tried to certify fake electors. These coordinated actions fit under Georgia's powerful RICO law, usually applied to organized crime. In August 2023, Trump and 18 others, including Rudy Giuliani and Mark Meadows, were indicted. Because state charges cannot be pardoned by a future president, the case is considered one of Trump's most dangerous legal battles. The Georgia case remains a historic test of whether a former U.S. president can be held accountable for undermining democracy itself.